Hello racing fans and welcome to the very first Beyond the Finish Line report. We're going to do a review of the stars and flops of the Australian Grand Prix, the first round of the new 2017 F1 season. As always, I'm Chip from the Digital Grandstand and this is Beyond the Finish Line. All in all, this was a surprising race. Some surprises were good, some not so much. First things first, can I just say how good, refreshing it is to have a different winner? Not only a different driver, but a different team. As much as many were expecting Mercedes and to a certain extent Lewis Hamilton to win, how good it is to see Vettel and Ferrari not only take the fight to them, but also beat them fair and square. Game on for the championship. Speaking of the championship fight, I know this was the first race and we're not supposed to read too much into it and all that, but some things are crystal clear as far as this start of the season is concerned. Specifically, two things. 2017 seems to no longer be a two-horse race for the driver's title, because Ferrari have genuinely made good strides over the winter and are right up there with Mercedes, which, if anything, is tasty. Yeah, one can argue that Hamilton and Vettel are the number one drivers at their respective teams, but even so, it's an improvement over the last 3 seasons, where it was basically a Mercedes versus Mercedes for most of the time. So game on that sense. The second thing is the pecking order. So we have Mercedes and Ferrari right at the top, with a small margin between them. Then there's Red Bull, pretty much in a class of their own at the moment. And then there is a bit of a gap. Seriously, apart from the aforementioned Ferraris, Mercs, and the only Red Bull still running of Max Verstappen, the only racer that was not lapped today was Felipe Massa. But even he finished more than 1 minute and 20 seconds behind Vettel, which is mental. The midfield, as tightly packed as it is at the moment, seems miles away from Red Bull, let alone the top 2. But hey, this is F1 and it's all about development and improvement. So yeah, fingers crossed the midfield will catch up a bit as the season goes on. Now, instead of listing and going through the whole classified finishers and the retirements, let's take a look at who impressed the most and who bottled it this weekend. We're kicking things off with one of the most brilliant debuts this side of 2010 in Formula 1. In 12th place, we find a name I didn't really expect to see in F1 yesterday. Antonio Giovinazzi, filling up for an injured Pascal Wehrlein, more than held his own. Kept his teammate honest in qualifying and with a spirited drive today. Yeah, he really is a very, very good prospect for Ferrari. Here's hoping we'll get to see more of him this season. As a personal note, I would have really liked seeing him and Wehrlein at Sauber this year. At the expense of Ericsson. But money talks, really, as far as F1 and everything else is concerned, really. Definitely a flop of the weekend was Stoffel Vandoorne, the last of the classified finishers today. It was a very tough race for the Belgium. He had problems right from the off with his screen going blank and he had to make an unscheduled pit stop for a software restart. He never really managed to mix it up with everyone else today, not least because of reliability concerns. But also because he had to do some fuel savings. Honda are in a world of trouble with no end in sight, really. Here's hoping, he can learn a thing or two about maximizing opportunities from his teammate. As for another star of the race, and one of the most pleasant surprises, really, was Daniel Kvyat. Oh my god, where was this pace last year? Honestly, what a drive! I don't usually vote on the official F1 website for the driver of the day, but I had to. Kvyat drove one of the best races of his career, especially in the second stint. He was catching Sainz and Perez at more than 1 second per lap, for goodness sake, Jesus. So you can imagine how how disappointed I was when I saw him coming into the pits for an unscheduled second stop. Not for tires, he had tons of pace left in them, but for a small engine fix. He was going for 7th place before that, but as always, yeah, history books will note that he was outraced by his teammate today. Throw Kvyat a bone, Karma, would you? Another driver that impressed today was Sergio Perez, finishing a brilliant 7th for Force India in one of his better drives for the team. He made sure to keep Williams and the rest of the midfield worried. I was always concerned that Sergio's biggest strength, his ability to keep the rear tires in top form for an ungodly amount of time, would be nullified by the new Pirelli tires. And that was the case, really, but he dabbled that aspect with a spirited drive, not least on the opening laps when he made up some ground. Yes, he was helped by some racers dropping off in front of him, but he kept his nose out of trouble and scored solid points. Now, how about to switch to a top team? Speaking of the top teams, and by far and away the least inspired drive of any of them, Kimi Raikkonen's race is best left forgotten. Not that there was anything to remember about it, mind you. Now, hold on. I've seen many comments today that he shouldn't be racing anymore, especially at a proper top tier team like Ferrari is. And yes, he did struggle today, big time. Trouble is, Raikkonen is a very demanding racer. He needs the car to work in a certain way for him to be totally comfortable with it. Where the likes of Fernando Alonso and to an extent Felipe Massa can jump in a car and work around their problems, Kimi needs a perfect setup in the car, and well, he didn't have that today. He kept Fast Max at bay and recorded the fastest lap of the race in the dying laps. So he got that going on for him. The thing is, with Kimi, his glory days are long gone. There's no denying that. No driver can actually cheat Father Time, and there's no escaping the fact that Raikkonen is 37 years old. His reflexes, overall speed and concentrations, well, are dropping year after year. He can still mix it up with everyone on the grid on occasions, when he has the setup for it. And yeah, today was not one of those days. Can he improve? Well, if the last season is anything to go by, yes. His pace last autumn was great. Don't write him off just yet. We can't go through the stars of the race and not mention the actual race winner, right? Sebastian Vettel won the race with a ultra soft strategy. He went longer than Hamilton in the first stint, switched to the soft compound tires at the end of the 23rd lap, and yeah, that was that really. Coming out of the pits in front of Verstappen, who Hamilton was unable to pass, he controlled the race from the front, which is a thing he's rather good at. Didn't put the wheel wrong all day and made the win look, well, easy. One gets the feeling Ferrari were not pushing that much today. Daniel Ricciardo, mate, what happened? Now, let's go through everything, shall we? Binned it in qualifying, damaged his gearbox and was demoted 5 places on the grid, stalled on his exploration lap out of the pits with a gearbox sensor issue, finally got going 2 laps down on the leaders, retired by the end of lap 25 with terminal power unit problems. This guy is the new Mark Webber. I know we got to see the actual Webber on the podium today, but make no mistake, he was actually disguised for the duration of the weekend as the young Aussie from Red Bull. If there's any silver lining from the race, Ricciardo can take heart from Verstappen's race and the fact that that Renault seemed to have made a good, solid step forward this year. Then again, it would have been hard for them not to improve. Now, I know I've said earlier that Daniel Kvyat's drive got my vote for driver of the day, but that's mainly because it was a surprise. As far as actual performance from a racer today, look no further than Fernando Alonso. Look where his teammate ended up, last of the qualified finishers. Alonso, in the same machinery, was running in the top 10 for most of the race. As I've said, it's not surprising. Fernando is one of those rare racers that can flatter any car. As he once said, with a car that is a lot slower than the best car, we fight until the last race. And this mentality was never as evident as it was today. There is a serious amount of talent going to waste at the moment at McLaren. One can only pray we will still see Fernando Alonso in a machine capable of a top 5 finish, because from there he can take it to the podium and even further. And yeah, those were the stars and flops of the Australian GP. Overall, I have to say it was it was a dull race, quite boring. Yes, there were some moments. Obviously, the opening 2 laps, Vettel's charge before his pit stop, Bottas catching up with Hamilton in a Häkkinen-esque manner, and and the Ocon-Hulkenberg double overtake on Alonso. But yeah, the final thought has to go to the actual state of F1 right now, specifically the new rules. Last year we had the elimination qualifying debacle, and we got rid of it after 2 races. And with these new aero regs and new tires, well, that's not an option. Do we really like to see one-stop races? Okay, yes, maybe, but with cars that can follow one another with ease. No more than 10 years ago, the dirty air coming off the car in front was actually a blessing for the following car. And say what you will about more or less overtaking, I'll take a slipstream overtake over a DRS-assisted one every day. The new Pirelli tires are far less degradable, which is exactly what was expected. A soft set lasted 30 to 35 laps, which is is just right. But having the super soft going just as much is not right. And the ultra soft more than 20? No thanks. Please back to the drawing board on that, FIA and Pirelli. The ultra soft should last for a maximum of 10 laps, with the super softs no more than 20. Yeah, maybe that's a discussion for another time. What do you thought of the race today? Let me know in the comment section below, and yeah, hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check back soon for more F1 related content, or you can always subscribe. I've been Chip from the Digital Grandstand, and I'll chat to you again soon.